Hi guys, welcome back to another video. So today I'm going to be drafting out Tengen Uzui from Demon Slayer. It's been a long time since I last made a Demon Slayer progress vlog, but I just reached 4K on this channel, so thank you guys so much. Because today I'm going to be showing you how I draft out my doll pretty much step by step. It's kind of like a guide, I guess, and hopefully you can find some of this useful. And it's also going to be a progress vlog for Uzui as well. So first thing that I do when I create my dolls, I get a composition notebook or just whatever notebook you have, and I also have a writing utensil. I just use a pink pen. I prefer like colored pens instead of black because I like seeing colors more and it gets me inspired to create. So I use pink because that's what I have right now. I'm on my second Little Weeby draft composition notebook. And yeah, now we're gonna go ahead and get started on Uzui. So the first thing I do is I write down the name of the character that I'm making. And then the next thing that we do is search for pictures. We need to have reference photos of the front side, the back side, the side, and then close-up reference photos of the face if possible, and other special details. So I like to hunt for reference photos of that. I use the original reference photos from anime episodes, or I use figurines, I use cosplays, and sometimes I even look up other people's crochet works as well as for reference to see how they created their dolls, if that's available. Sometimes I even use fan art, and so I use whatever possible reference stuff. Because sometimes I'll be doing custom dolls and people only give me like the front profile without anything else. It's literally just the front of the character without any sort of side profile or back profile, and that makes it really hard for me to create a doll when it's 3D and all you have is like the front side. So yeah, it's always important to show as many profiles as possible. So you want to look up model sheet. You type in the characters' names and then you put model sheet, and that gives you pretty much decent results. And then once I got all my reference photos, I go ahead and combine them into an album to keep things organized. And this is pretty much what it looks like once everything is organized. And these are all the photos that I'll be using for Uzui. After that, we go ahead and choose the supplies. I have a whole other video where I talk about specifically what supplies I use on my little BB dolls. And I also will be choosing out different colored yarns. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the process of how I choose yarns and the stash that I have right now. So here's what my setup looks like before I start. I have my basic primary colors right here, which I use for pretty much almost every doll. So here's the overview of my yarn stash. I have quite a bit of colors going on. Now, if you don't usually make dolls as much and you go from like project to project slowly at a time, then your yarn stash may not look this large. I just have this many yarn because I crochet dolls on a daily basis, so I pretty much had to buy the entire rainbow. When I first started, I was taking the advice that I should just buy the colors that I'm going to be using for those certain projects only, but then I found myself continuing to go to the store, running to the store every time I needed to buy a specific color, and I was always seeing that I had colors missing and it was getting such a hassle, so I pretty much try to buy every shade of blue and every shade of yellow and pink just to save myself some time and gas. And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and choose out the colors that I'm going to make for Uzui. So his color palette doesn't look too difficult. So first I'm going to be choosing this gold by Impeccable for his buttons, because if you look at his buttons, they look a little bit darker than the other gold accessories that he has on his arms. So I'm gonna go ahead and choose this one because I rarely use it, so this is my chance to finally put this on a doll. Next, I'm also going to be taking this honey yarn right here, which I use for a lot of my dolls. Honey by Yarn Bees, which is a shinier gold. And here I'm going to be using Silver by Yarn Bees, which I also use pretty often for like belt buckles and stuff. So whenever I have a hard time seeing a certain color on a character, I open up the Instagram app and then I select the photo that I'm using for reference, and then I take the drawing tool to select the color that I want to look at, and then I draw a little color palette of that specific color that I chose, so that way I can see it clearer, and hopefully I have a that's similar to that color palette. So sometimes I get stuck trying to figure out between which shades of blue or purple that I want to use, and this is just an example, but I think in this case, in terms of this dark purple right here, it looks purple to me. The closest thing I have is this dark blue yarn. I think the clear winner is this darker color because this one's obviously too light in this case, but that's how I much create a clear distinctions between the colors I want to use. And these are all the yarns that I'm going to be using for Uzui so far. I'll have the final copy of my notes in the description box below. Yeah, not too many colors. I think this is simple enough to match his character. And now I'm going to begin the process of drafting out the doll. And so as for how I draft out my doll, I go ahead and open up my notebook and I write down all the supplies that I plan on using. The supplies section could change. If I plan on making adjustments to the doll later, I could add in more colors of yarn, I could take out some colors, I can add in some other unique items that I can jot down later. And so for the drafting process, I pretty much change colors on the base body and I create a few accessories to attach on the doll, and that's how I pretty much create the clothes for the dolls. Most of my dolls are pretty much made from color changing because I don't really know how to make actual proper clothing. So if you've seen some of my previous tutorials, you can probably already tell that. But yeah, if your doll has pants or shirts, you can go ahead and draft down how you're going to create pants and shirt. You know, you have to do trial and error. You have to write down after each step, so that way you won't forget what you did. And if it doesn't work, scratch out that step and go line by line, pretty much row by row of what you're going to do, and jot down the color changes as well, or any unique instructions. So in Uzui's case, I'm going to be jotting down starting from the bottom of the feet, what color changes I'm going to be making there, and then the extra accessory like the pants, I'm going to be making him an extra pants, the color changes of the arms and the actual main body, and then finally the head, because my base body that I'm using is the little weeby doll. I like to use that base body to create my dolls, and it starts from the bottom upwards. Some dolls start off from the head and it goes down where you have to attach the head to the body, and there are like all kinds of different ways, so you have to create the instructions based on the base body pattern that you're using. And for him, I also jot down things like the hair, the belt. He also has some jewelry dangling on the side of his face. Things I do not do are extra accessories like the sword or any extra pieces that's not really a part of the body. So I try to keep it simple as possible. But if you do want to make swords and stuff, go ahead and add that to your notes as well. Hi guys, welcome back to the first update for Uzui. So this is his body. Starting out for the bottom part, his flip-flops, I started off with white, and then I did some color changing from black to orchid and so forth. And I did some little sewing right here along the feet for like the top part of the sandals, and then upwards I joined pants onto the body, which then I pushed it inwards like this to create a more 3D effect because their pants are really bulky. Upwards I crocheted it on black, and now he has a bald head. And for the eyes, I gave him orchid color eyes, black eyelids, which I used the same shape as Rengoku, so pretty much his eyelids are like the same as Rengoku's eyes, and I think that really makes it unique for the Demon Slayer characters. Somebody did ask me how long it usually takes for me to make these type of dolls, and I would say on average about 2 to 3 days, depending on how detailed it is and depending on how long I spend on each doll per day. 2 to 3 days if I work from the morning all the way to evening and I sit down most of the time, but otherwise it can expand out to like a whole week if I have other things I need to do. There's no pressure to like make these things quickly, and you're not slow if you take longer to make it than I do. I've made these dolls hundreds and hundreds of times, so I pretty much have the pattern down by heart. And crocheting itself just takes a lot of practice and time in order to crochet faster. So yeah, this is the update so far. Hi guys, welcome back to the next update on the body. So I attached on both of his arms. What his arm looks like, I start off with skin. I changed color to dark country blue. Then I changed back to skin and I added honey yarn in between. Finished off with skin. Here I added on the collar, which I simply just glued it on. And then I did this white belt part, which is pretty much what most of the characters have on. And now for the head, I gave him 2 ears. Each of his ears has these little gold piercings. So I went ahead and took gold yarn and then pretty much just sew them on. So that's what that looks like. And his hair cap, it's white. He has white hair. So I gave him 4 inner rounds, 3 outer rounds, and then I created this one ponytail which has 3 strands, and I simply try to like curve it downwards so that way it's in place. I went ahead and sew that on in the first round, the very middle round. And this is what it looks like on the front side. We are almost finished because I have this little metal plate right here on his head. So these are orchid jewels. I created 3 of those, and I also created these little 3 knots right here, which I went ahead and sewed them onto the metal plate as well. For the jewels, I just simply glued them on to keep them in place. He has these little dangling jewels right here, which I use Arctic Ice, and I chained them and I simply single crocheted them onto the metal plate, and that was the best way I could get them on. And I kept it really simple. Some people want to use like, you know, actual iridescent type of little crafting sparkly things. I don't know what they're called. I went ahead and crocheted it just to keep it simple, and his metal plate is actually slanted on his head. So the way I'm going to place this on, by putting it on like this. So you want to make sure there's 1 row in between the eyelid and the metal plate. So this one's going to go down like this. Gonna go ahead and pin this down right here. And then for the other side, I'm gonna make sure there's 2 rows in between the eyelid and the metal plate. So there you have it, 1, 2 rows. And you can kind of tell it's quite slanted. Go ahead and pin that down. And then this part is supposed to be dangling down right here. Of course, this side right here is going to be a little bit longer because it is slanted. But they are the same amount of chains for each side. It is even. And then once you glue it down, it's pretty much going to look like this. And I'm not going to do anything else with his hair. He's not going to have any other hair strands besides the ponytail on the back because it's very simple. His hair, the way it wraps around, it looks kind of like a mummy. At least that's what I think with the way it's all wrapped around. And I'm like, it's not really necessary because the shape is already there with the hair cap. So I don't really need to create any hair pieces, which makes this character really, really easy to do. And once everything is in place, this is pretty much what he's going to look like. So I'm going to go ahead and glue everything down. I'll be right back. Okay, so here's the next part of the process, the last part, which I'm going to take a red permanent marker. Right here, I have 2 of them because they are different sizes. And I'm going to go ahead and draw the dots on, like how a lot of other people are pretty much going to do as well. I went ahead and placed 5 little pins to point out where the large red dot is going to go. And then I'm just going to go back and fill it in. I'm not going to do this part on camera because I get way too self-conscious with the camera looking. It's easier for me to focus without recording. So I'm just going to be back and show you the last update. Okay, so here is the first round of dots. I'm using a really, really thin tip to create the really small circles around his eye first. And I guess I could try to create the little lines that connect to the eye as well. Otherwise, they're just going to be like floating acne around his eye, and I don't want that to be the case. Okay, so here's what it looks like so far. Not the most cleanest thing I've ever done because when you work with marker or any type of liquid, stuff like this can happen. And it's so much harder on crochet because of like the textures. It's not like a flat surface like regular fabric. It's not going to be perfect. I don't know. Some people are really good with paint and they have like all the right tools and stuff so they can make it look really, really smooth. And maybe if you do like yarn under for the stitches, it might be even easier to do that. Hi guys, welcome back to the final update. So this is it for the eye. It looks so messy, but you know, art. And I accidentally messed up right here, which I tried to hide it by poking in the messed up part back into the skin. And I redrew it on this side right here. But yeah, I created 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 large circles and then 5 tiny circles in between, and I drew the line towards the eye, and that's the best that I could do for this one. Maybe you could like sew on the circles and like sew on the line. It might look neater, but I don't really have the patience for that, so I went ahead and used markers, and yeah, this is the result. Very rarely do I ever use markers or anything like that. Sometimes I use it for moles or freckles, and I am very, very happy with it. And the back side, I sewed on the kanji for destroy. I don't even know if I mentioned that earlier, but this process was pretty cool. It was pretty fun to do. The other characters, I didn't sew this one on because they're hidden by their jackets, so he doesn't have one, so I had to go ahead and sew it on. And I think I did it pretty accurately since I do know this kanji. So yeah, really, really happy with that. And here is my current desk setup. I have my other Demon Slayer dolls over here because I was making him today, and now that I'm done, I'm going to go ahead and display him right next to Shinobu. And I will be making more Demon Slayer characters too. Definitely want to make the rest of the Hashiras. And yeah, can't wait for the Swordsmith Arc Village thing, whatever, that next season that's coming out. Really excited for that one. It's so good. And there we have it. 3 of the Hashiras and 4 members of the Demon Slayer Corps. Super happy with it. I love this display. I'm probably going to keep it here for now. It is so nice right here, and I get to see some dolls in front of me. I kind of missed having that, so if you guys want to know how to make your own anime style hair, I have links to my Ninky hair tutorial pattern in the description box below, along with my other base bodies. And thank you so much if you leave any donations, because it does help fund my supplies. And I'll be back with the next video. See you guys later. Bye!